I don't know why I was ready to call in my guides. I literally went into reading like I was about to read somebody. I was like, all right, calling in my, I was like, wait a second, we're not doing that. I'm in automatic mode. I'm like, all right, guys, calling my higher self, angels and guides. No. All right. So today, let's talk about soulmates and twin flames. So
Yes, I
let's
think
just say
it's
welcome.
actually it's worth saying too that we recorded this episode before and the audio didn't take. And I was just talking to Isabel, thinking, I wonder if there's a reason why that audio didn't work out. But who knows? We'll
I
see if
think
just
okay. So my viewpoint on that, when you were saying, is that I think honestly, like maybe I personally maybe needed to be a little bit more raw. That's what I
okay.
think.
Okay.
Maybe spirit's like, hey, be a little bit more raw. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, welcome to Motherland, and let's get started. All right. So I'm gonna let you kind of ask, like, I don't know, what do you want to know, or what do we want to say as far as twin flames and soulmates?
Okay, so a couple of things. I've had some people reach out about certain topics, and I know people reach out to you as well
Yeah.
about different topics.
Yeah.
And I've gotten the topic about let's talk. Can you both talk about soulmates and twin flames?
Okay.
And I thought that would be really good to talk about because the way that I'm coming at this is not something that I studied a lot, but I have sort of personal experience thinking about twin flames and soulmates. And I think also from like an academic standpoint, you would also be helpful too to give like definitions about what's a soulmate, what's a twin flame, should we be looking for these things. So we could do kind of like interview styly
Okay,
and
cool.
see what comes up.
All right.
So Isabel, let's talk about, can you tell me what is a soulmate, what's a twin flame, and is there a difference between the two?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a difference. Here's the thing. I think I said this before, that when people ask me what a soulmate is, it's like one of the top questions. And I know we recorded this before, but one of the things that I think with soulmates is that it's an overused word. It's
Okay.
really overused. And so I definitely don't think that we should go about our lives searching for our soulmate. And I think a lot of us are continuously always going around our lives searching for a soulmate. So first is understanding what a soulmate is. Okay. A soulmate, you guys all come from what's called a soul pod or soul family. Okay. However you want to word it. So it's a group of souls that have spent many lives together, both here in this life and also in past lives. Okay. Well, whatever, how you want to say it. But you spent many lives together. This is your soul family. So some of them you've had romantic relationships, some have been friendships, some have been teachers. That's what it kind of is. Okay. So that's why when you meet a soulmate, you have that feeling of, I know you. I don't know how I know you, but I know you. So one of the things though that I have to say is that soulmates are not always romantic, and we tend to think that I'm meeting my soulmate means I'm meeting my divine partner, I'm meeting my romantic partner, I'm meeting my person. They can be, but it's definitely not always the case. And I will come back and saying that there's many different types of soulmates that we can talk about. But that's it. Twin flames though, twin flames are literally the exact copy of you. So it's like I always tell people, like if you have a twin and there's like an embryo, right? Like your embryo split in two. Like that's what it is. So a twin flame is definitely somebody that's going to mirror a lot of your insecurities and where you need healing in your life. They're both incredibly potent. They're both incredibly powerful relationships, whether it's a soulmate relationship and it's a friend, or however that is in your life, or whether it's a twin flame. But just because you're in either one of these relationships doesn't mean that they're like, again, I'm going to copy this and say like, it doesn't mean they're your forever partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is really interesting. I think that I have been very fortunate enough to meet lots of members of my soul family. Also, especially recently. And when I was on Lost Resort and shooting that in Costa Rica, it was five people. They called us healers. I don't like that word, but that's how they cast us. So it was five people who were brought together to work with a group of people who were trying to heal from trauma. And it became very clear once we all met that we were definitely, we knew each other. There
Yeah.
was an instant realization that we all recognized each other. And it was a very powerful connection. And it's been a lasting connection because some of these folks that I'm still deeply connected with. And I also think it's interesting too, and to note that I think that I've met members of my soul family who are no longer in my life,
Yeah.
because I do think that members of your soul family aren't necessarily with you forever, but they can be with you for a season or
Definitely.
two, or to help you learn a particular lesson or heal a karma, or sort of bring you to the next point in your life, which I think is also really powerful.
Yeah. That's cool. I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
neat. I mean, I think no matter what, I think your soulmates, when you feel like you meet your soulmates, you definitely met somebody that's going to have a big significance, and it's a big link or extraordinary way that you guys connect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Honestly, it's like I'm sitting here asking, my guides if I have met a lot of my soulmates, and I don't think I have. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's weird to say, but I just don't think I have. I think I've met a lot of people that have made some very big connections with me and have taught me a lot of lessons, but I don't feel that I've met a lot of soulmates in my life. And I can hear my guide saying, like, there's a reason because of this for me. Um, but yeah, I had one soulmate that I met, and she was my best friend for like 20 something years, honestly, like my best friend, but we're no longer friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like, I don't think we go around the street going like, oh, you're a soulmate, you're a soulmate, you're a soulmate. So I
Uh-huh.
think that like your experience of going to that island
Mm-hmm.
and getting to meet your tribe is very cool. Like that's a very rare thing in your life.
Yeah, it is a rare thing, and I think that was something that we all noticed too when we were together and we met. We recognized like, oh, we're like each other's people, and then we came back and the pandemic happened. It was very interesting. Like we felt like something was shifting and something was happening.
Yeah.
I do think it's rare, and I do consider myself really fortunate that I was able to meet these people.
Why do you think that, like, why do you think everybody wants to meet their soulmate?
I think that people want to meet their soulmate for a few reasons. One, and this is a reason that I think a lot of people just go on their spiritual journey because they are lonely. And I think people are either don't know how to or are unaware to do work on themselves and recognize the fact that they have this ability to find the love that they need inside themselves. So they're always looking outside. And I also think that in our society, that dominant culture perpetuated this idea that you are not complete unless that you are with somebody. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of people think that they need to be with somebody in order to be whole, which I think is bullshit. I don't think that has to happen. And I think we are less likely to connect with people, soulmate aside. We're less likely to connect with the person who we can have a lasting connection with if we haven't done our this idea of finding wholeness within ourselves.
100%.
And we might make decisions out of lack that we think that other person is filling.
Yeah.
So those are a few of the reasons I think it happens.
I think for a lot of years, a lot of us have defined, I think you said it perfectly, have defined relationships in a sense of they're feeling me rather than me feeling myself. And I think that we're moving into a different stage where people are starting to acknowledge that I have to feel myself with that sense of wholeness and not depend on somebody else. And not only that, I think we get into relationships on a whole nother note. And it's sad to hide our own insecurities or to hide what needs to be worked on. So we look at people to make us feel better. And we think that a soulmate is the person that's supposed to be there to hide these insecurities, to not see our weaknesses, to only see our strengths, right? We've over romanticized them in such a way where, they're the knight in shining armor or the queen, whatever you guys want to call it, and that's not the case. Like, that's not the case. I don't think like I know for a fact that soulmates are not always everlasting. There's many different contracts that we sign with people, whether, like we said, whether it's a karmic soulmate or whether it's a soul partner. And your soul partner, I don't mean romantic. I mean that this is someone that maybe you've agreed to come into life, that you're creating a business together, or it's your best friend, or something like that. So there's somehow where, when I use the word soul partner, this is somebody that's meant to support you in your life, emotionally, maybe professionally, just help you get to that next step in your life. But I'm really happy because I do think that as I work with clients, more and more people are starting to realize, like, oh, this isn't the way it is. But it makes me sad too, because I think, unfortunately, due to social media, that everybody sells it. Like, everybody sells, oh, you're going to meet your soulmate when, and, your soulmate is this. Like, you're going to meet, most of us are going to meet hundreds of soulmates in our lifetime, whether we know it or not. Yeah. So any reader or psychic can tell you that, and they're probably absolutely correct, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to meet your romantic soulmate. And that doesn't mean that you're, like, I want to reiterate, it doesn't mean you're forever, and the same goes with twin flames. That's
Yeah,
another.
let's talk about twin flames.
Let's not. No, I'm joking.
Let's do. I know you don't want to, and that's why we are going to. So
Okay.
I'll break the ice a little bit. I have not met. I think I've only met one twin flame in my life, and that's my co-writer. Yes, my co-writer is my twin flame, and it's not a romantic relationship. It's a creative relationship, and it's like a creative, intimate relationship, and it's really potent.
Yeah,
because we're mirrors of each other and we trigger each other. So as we've been working like on a project, we can really like poke and prod in ways to have us like bring out the best, but it can also get really toxic. And we've known each other since we were kids, like 13, and that has always been sort of the dynamics of the friendship.
And I like that you say that, because twin flames does not mean that you have to love somebody romantically. That does not mean that. But like, to repeat it again, twin flames are definitely, it's like a flame that's split in half. That's why it's called that. And they're exactly a mirror to one another. So you can mirror each other's strengths as much as you can mirror each other's weaknesses. And the whole thing of a twin flame, so us as a person, as a human, our whole point of evolving down on earth is to evolve our soul, right? Is that we are always continuously growing as our soul is growing and expanding. The thing with a twin flame is that you guys are one soul split in two. So as they grow, you grow. As you grow, they grow. Like, it's a kind of a back and forth type of growing where you guys are growing together in a way as the same soul. Does that make sense? So like,
yes, totally.
Yeah. So in this though, so there's this great pool. There's an amazing pool. I don't want to like hesitate on, like, there's such an emotional pool, maybe a passionate pool. I think that's why we get confused in the romantic side of it.
Yes.
This deep pool that unless you've experienced it, it's really hard to explain. And not everyone has a twin flame. I want to clear that up. Like, not everybody has a twin flame. Okay. But this is the thing with twin flames. In order for you guys to have a healthy relationship, which I can hear the guide saying that's very, very few, it means that you.
Yes, and I'm included in that. No, I'm not necessarily one of the healthy.
It means that you both need to be doing the work. You need to be doing the work separate as them. And yes, this is, I think, in any partnership or in any friendship in some way, but twin flames is different. You guys have to be doing the work in order to experience that deep level. Because if you don't, there can be the most toxic relationship that you have been in. And it's kind of funny having this conversation because I can hear myself going like, okay, this isn't making sense. Because you're going to have those should haves, I could have, I would have, right? Like all these things in it. Yeah, but it's a really intense relationship. I definitely had my twin flame. I was in my relationship with a twin flame. By the way, I do not necessarily recommend people getting into a relationship with their twin flame, but I also understand how it can happen. Okay. So I was in my relationship.
It's almost like it's like obsessive. Like you can't, like it's just this magnetic pull,
Yeah.
and it's intoxicating.
That's so
And yes, I can see how it can get mistaken for romance.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, especially if there's an attraction as well. Like there, the thing is, but it's really interesting. Like for me, I was in my twin flame relationship for like 3.5 years. And it was really neat because what you don't realize, despite if there's age differences, your childhood traumas will mirror theirs. And like your things that you've done in your life will be very similar to like, for me and my twin flame, we had the same birthday, different year. We had the same exact likes and dislikes and cravings in food. We drove the same like first car. We had the same type of upbringing. He was into racing and I loved race cars and I was always the passenger in racing. Like there was all different stuff that we had that were just like boom, 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 boom. So your twin flame is definitely seems like a mirror because like your similarities into your childhood is very, very simple. Very like similar is what I mean. But yeah, um, it's hard work. That's all I have to say. Like it's hard work, you know. And there's different stages in twin flames. There's different stages, and I think we talked a little bit. There's a chaser and there's a runner. There's always somebody that it almost feels like it's not very common in twin flames where you guys meet at the exact like, okay, we're perfect. Sometimes it feels like someone's running and someone's chasing, so there's different parts of this. Of course, I think in any relationship, a lot of these stages can be seen in any relationship, right? You have your honeymoon stage, you have that amazing stage, then you have your exploring stage, and then you have like, okay, we explored it. And that's where you kind of like, there's good and bad, right? You see your faults, you see your not faults. But I think in twin flame relationships, that's where the toxicity can come in because of that intensity, you can just override what you think or what may be a fault. It's easier. And then you have like, okay, am I going to decision? Like, am I going to stay in this? And there's a whole bunch of up and downs and ups and downs.
Are there ways that you can minimize, let's say, or are there ways that you can identify that, oh, this is my twin flame? Are there certain things that
Well, I
you
think the
that
thing
you
is
can?
that like identifying your twin flame is definitely very similar to, I would almost say like somebody could think like, oh, this is a soulmate or so like that. Um, but but yeah, I like I said, in your twin flames, there's going to be a lot of like similarities. You're going to
Uh-huh.
find yourself going like, oh my gosh, right? It's almost, how do you want to say it? It's a sense of like I'm meeting myself. You are the male version of
Okay.
me, or you are the female version of me. Like literally,
Okay.
my twin flame was like, oh my god, you're me as a male version. You know. What was interesting is I'm more masculine energy, and they were more feminine
Uh,
energy.
yeah, that there was that blending. Yeah.
Yeah, but we definitely had that, right? Like I said, multiple similarities, like just like this is insane type of similarities, deep connection to almost telepathic. Like I would be sitting there thinking like I want a cup of coffee, and before I know it, coffee was presented to me. And it was like, wait, did I say that? Like did I tell you that? No. Like how did you know that? Or like just weird telepathic stuff that happens like this. Um there is, I don't want to down, like there is a desire to grow together. So oftentimes twin flames have very much the same soul purpose. Where you're like, this is my passion, this is my purpose. So there's a desire for you guys to grow. Does it always work out? No, because remember, you're mirroring each other's insecurities and what needs healing. Um, and I think the other part is when you meet your twin flame, be ready. Like, be ready because you're going to know that, like, there's going to be so much turbulence in your life as far as like what's going to happen and changes. The other part is because you guys are both wanting, this is the tricky part. I can hear the guides kind of telling me this is where I messed up in my own relationship. It's interesting. I'm listening to myself talk. Are you frozen? Oh no, Nika froze. I can't stop my recording. Hi guys. We're totally frozen on this end too. Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, it's still recording. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know, but one of the things that I was saying is that when you meet your twin flame, you're going to have that significant changes. Be ready, because there's going to be like turbulence in your growth. But I was saying one of the things I could hear my guides telling me was, because you guys have a desire to grow, like whether you're growing together, and you guys have your passion, you have your purpose, there will be a priority, you guys will be prioritizing in a way your own growth over being in the relationship.
Ah.
So they're saying like it's really hard for you sometimes to come together because there could be these selfish ways of thinking, which it's not, because we all should be growing. But you guys are like, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with you. But then you're focused on, wait, I'm growing. And they're focused on, wait, I'm growing. So it's a harder way of like connecting.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, intense. Like, it's like, oh, we can't connect because you're so involved in your growth, and then maybe you're frustrated or mad because you're not growing, because I am growing. See, so that's why there's like this dynamic balance that happens. But
So
yeah.
do you think the reunification and the peace comes when we're no longer in our bodies with our twin flame?
Yeah.
And to that point, and follow-up question, since we are from the same soul, is part of the struggle and the battle that we are looking to in these complicated, clunky meat suits, trying to replicate that thing that we had when we weren't in our meat suits, which is impossible to do. When we're in these bodies, does that add to some of the tension?
What? I don't understand.
So if twin flames are a soul,
Yeah.
right? And before we were in our bodies, so it was a soul that had, a relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like once we get into the bodies, I'm wondering if it's like part of the tension in the battle is because we're married, and also because we're trying to find
Yeah.
that sense of unification that we
100%.
had before we were in the bodies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
100%. And it like you said, and it's interesting because like I say, you guys are the same soul split in two. So what that looks like is the sense that, when I go back into it right now and I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, wait a second. They have a desire to grow in their passion and purpose, and I have a desire to grow in our passion and purpose. So there's this constant fight of like, we're drawn together, we're separated, we're drawn together, we're separated, we're drawn together, we're separated. Because selfishly or unselfishly, however you want to say it, you're going to be more into your growth as an individual than you are necessarily making it work as a couple. And that's really hard. That's really hard, right? If you're in a relationship with somebody and you're like, oh, they're my twin flame. If you are acting in a way that like, oh, their interests are my interests, they're probably not your twin flame. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're still going to have a very much a focus on yourself, which is probably the reason, which I can say is like, that's the reason we didn't work. Like, that's the reason we didn't work. Yeah. Now I'm kind of having a lot of reflection in this conversation. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like, we didn't work because they didn't feel they were growing individually. And honestly, I didn't feel they were growing individually. So like,
Right.
it's like, okay, we're not going to work because you're not growing, and I want you to be happy, and I need to grow, and I need to do my work because I have my purpose. So, but the thing is I had a realization where I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like, it's
Right.
either I'm going to be successful and you're going to be resentful, or, I have to sacrifice myself for you to be successful. For some reason, we couldn't find the balance in it.
Okay. So you had mentioned earlier, you briefly talked about something, a soul contract, and
Yeah.
that there are different kinds of soul contracts. What is a soul contract for folks who don't know
Okay.
what one is?
So a soul contract, in essence, is what happens. So, okay, you're just going to bring me through the whole like evolving of a soul.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie Soul. No, I'm joking.
Oh my gosh, which blew me away. When I saw that, I was like weeping and just so into it that the moment it ended, I started it over again and watched it from the beginning.
I watched that movie Soul, and I literally was pause. And I was talking to my boyfriend at the time. Meaning I don't have one now. But I was talking to him and I was like, would pause and be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I see. Oh my gosh, that's what I channel. Like, that's what I did. Because before I even explain what soul contract is, before when I was with my old mentor, she was so into channeling the way the soul evolved. Like she was so into the dimensions and explaining how the soul evolved in schools and this. And so we would spend hours just drawing charts of like soul pods and the evolving of the soul and like all these different things. And when I saw that, I was like, and after doing years of mediumship as well and speaking with, you know, past loved ones and seeing how it was, I was like, oh my gosh, who channeled this movie? This movie.
Mm-hmm.
The one part that I have to shout out, it's funny because I was talking to Mal about this. We were talking one time about the movie Soul, and because I think Jamie Foxx is the voice of one of the characters in the movie.
The main character.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Tina Fey.
I think she works with Jamie Foxx. So she was saying that when she found out, she was like, you never told me that like you were doing Soul, which I think is really funny. But sorry if I'm like saying stuff I shouldn't say. I don't know. But either way, it's just funny because she found out after she watched Soul 2, like, oh my gosh. And we were just saying like, yeah, that movie is so on point of how your soul develops and how it is in Soul School. Like I thought it was so funny that they covered Soul School. I was like,
I know.
oh my gosh. Like, cause that's real.
I resonated with every single part of that movie. I was like, this is like, I get all of this. Like, yes.
I know. I need to go back and watch it again. Disney does some crazy movies. Same thing with Coco when they did Coco too. Coco was a lot with it as far as like talking about, you know, the way that we as Hispanics view the afterlife. And I thought that was really, you know, cool because I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how it is. And even in, oh my God, I know I'm getting off topic. Even in The Princess and the Frog, the way the voodoo guy sees his like spirits and the way things are, I was like, that's so like to me like how I see that. So anyways, needless to say. Okay, so what are soul contracts? I'm all getting off topic of Disney. Soul contracts are created before you come into this like, as you call it, this meat suit, into this meat suit, right? So basically you sit down with the way that I'm going to say it the way that I see it. You sit down with your what at that time we're not calling them our soul guides. We're seeing them as like there's a group of people that help us in creating this life. Okay. And these are various peoples from ascended masters to your people that are signing up to be your spirit guides in this lifetime to ancestors and loved ones. And you actually are looking at your soul as a whole on what karma that do you want to break in this lifetime? What lessons do you want to learn? What do you still need to learn that maybe you didn't learn in your past life? And the people that are gathering, what I see almost as a table or a line, it's like a line of people, are signing up in a way to help bring these lessons to you. Right. And some of these are people you're going to meet at various times in your life. Like, I'm signing up to help you break this chain. I'm signing up to create this business with you and this passion, you know. So they're bringing in all these different aspects to help you along the way. And you're signing basically a contract that you are going to collaborate once you come down to earth in order to not just, you know, evolve your soul, but also evolve their soul as well. So yeah, basically soul contracts are to help us in achieving our own life purpose in a nutshell.
So are there ways that we can identify when we have a soul contract with someone? Are there things that we can recognize inside ourselves that like, oh, I think I might have a soul contract here?
Okay, so I think one of the things that you really need to look at is when we go back into the word soulmates. Okay, because soulmates are there to help us in some way with those soul contracts. Okay, so like we said, like you have the soul partnerships, right? And whether like you're going to be like, oh wait, it's always kind of that sense of familiarity to you. But I think it's like, how do you guys want to, I'm asking the guides how do we know when we meet someone in the soul contract? They're saying you're basically going to know by the evolving of your soul and the higher of like you following your purpose and the encouragement of you following your purpose, or the encouragement of you healing as well. Okay. So like going into like karmic soulmates, right? A karmic soulmate is basically someone here, somebody in our life that's helping us facilitate, whether positive or negative, that healing in our life that we need to look at so that we can grow and evolve again. So I think it's anyone that you know that's going to come into your life to help your soul evolve. And honestly, I don't think you always know when that's occurring until it's either occurring or after it's occurred.
Mm-hmm. I know in my life I have run up against often the same kinds of problems over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, which I don't necessarily always think is a soul contract, but I think this is also something for people to think about as they're, investigating twin flames and soulmates and soul contracts. You run up against that thing again and again that you need to heal.
Yeah.
And you think, why does this keep happening to me? Like when you feel yourself screaming that, that's a real sign to pause and stop and say, wait a minute, what am I supposed to be learning here?
Right.
Instead of, why is this happening to me? What am I supposed to be learning? And that kind of pause. Their Pema Chodron says we keep seeing the same thing. I'm paraphrasing. We keep seeing the same thing, and it doesn't go away until we've learned it. And I think those are great times to pause and recognize, is this a contract? Am I running into this person for a reason? Am I confronting something for a reason? But I think it all goes back to what we were saying, where we have to start having these active and loving, compassionate conversations with ourselves, because we will miss all of these things if we are constantly looking outside for what we, for connections or for purpose or meaning.
Yeah. And I think I want to just touch on the fact that having a soulmate or a twin flame, more so on soulmates, that they're, like I said, they're not always karmic and they're not always permanent, right? So like you can have people that are your soul teachers or your soul friends to be your biggest supporters. You can have like those, which we'd call kindred spirits or whatever it is. You met a large group of your soul family. So you can have people that show up in a way to support you in a larger sense that actually feel like family members in this lifetime, right? So there's a lot of really good things that can come from, I think, soulmates. Twin flames isn't bad, but like I said, I think there's just a lot of learning to be done in twin flames. So when people always are calling in their twin flames, I'm like, why do you guys want to know if they're your twin flame? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to marry them because they're your twin flame? Are you going to get into this romantic relationship because they're your twin flame? Like, that's not a romantic relationship. And you really, honestly, have to be in a healthy mindset to have a twin flame relationship, because if you're not, it can go a completely different way.
Yeah.
But
so to recap, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
So soulmates, you don't have to have them. You don't have to look for them. They are people that we may find or we may not find, and if we do, we're very lucky, but it's not sort of the point of our lives.
Right.
And why not? You said something, I'm totally leading the witness here, but you said something the last time we recorded this that I thought was really amazing.
What's that?
About if we're always looking for twin flames, why is that a problem?
I think, I don't remember what I said, but I can answer it now. If you're always looking for your twin flame, or if you're always looking for your soulmate, you can possibly miss the divine connections made that maybe somebody's not your twin flame or your soulmate, but it doesn't mean that they have less of a purpose to be with you in that sense, whether it's love or whether it's a friendship or whether it's a stepping block. Like, there's still so many beautiful connections to make outside of soulmates and to make outside of twin flames. And the biggest thing too is that you may miss the opportunity of really making your divine connection with your divine counterpart, which is a completely different topic. And your divine counterpart doesn't mean they're your twin flame or your soulmate. I think that's the thing. People are always like, oh, I met my you know, is this my lifetime person? This is my divine counterpart. And it's like, just because you're your soulmate does not mean they're your divine counterpart. So quit trying to make them be. Quit trying to make them be your divine counterpart when they're not meant to be. And we want them to be so bad. Like, honestly, I'm speaking from experience. Like, I'm actually like, I think I probably, that's why we didn't get it saved. It's like, I'm realizing, I'm like, I wanted my twin flame to be my divine counterpart so freaking bad. Like, I wanted that. I mean, I was like, they have to be, right? Like, they have to be. But, no, it was definitely, they're like, no. My guides are like, no.
No.
They're like, Isabel, this was not meant to be as much as you wanted it to be. And you freaking, I know, I fought the hell out of like them to be my divine counterpart. You know, and now I'm realizing like, oh, the separation from your twin flame, which I think I'm learning is entirely different from the separation of like somebody else.
Yeah.
It's very intense, and I understand it now. Like, I'm looking at it like, I'm like, that's why it feels like, and I'll be raw and honest, like, I think that's why it feels like I can't move forward right now.
Yeah.
You know, because in essence there is something missing. There is
Yeah.
something missing.
Half of you is missing.
Yeah. So it's really hard, and I think that's again where the toxic trait comes in, where I'm like, well, if you do, right, if you do this and you get him back, I'll be willing to overlook this. But like, that's not where growth happens. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, any other
You
questions?
answered exactly the way that I thought you were going to answer, because I think it's a perfect end. No, I think it's a really perfect end to talk about, and I don't think there's anything to add. I think that was beautiful.
Okay. All right. So I think that's everything as far as soulmates and twin flames. And yeah, I guess that's all.
Yeah, we'd love to hear after this episode if you have questions, or if there were things that you also wanted to know more about twin flames or soulmates. Like, let us know in the comments, like, subscribe, send us emails. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, before we end, I actually am on the TikTok app, and somebody actually is asking, do you ever find your way back to your twin flame? Oh, she froze. Why am I freezing all the time? There you go. Somebody was saying, I was on the TikTok app, and somebody's asking, do you ever find your way back to your twin flame? Yeah. The answer is yeah. I just heard the guides are like, yeah, you can find your way back to your twin flame. But they're answering me saying like, it's not necessarily easy because there's work to be done on both sides. And that speaks for all. Like, if you can find your way back to your twin flame if you both are doing the work. But just because you find your way back to your twin flame once again doesn't necessarily mean they'll become your romantic partner. They may become your best friend. They may become your biggest supporter, biggest ally, whatever you want to call it. But like, that doesn't necessarily mean they're becoming your romantic partner. So yes.
Yep.
Yeah. That's it. All right, guys. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, all the things Oneika said. Bye.